This week's edition of the WaterBoys podcast features someone who I consider to be just an amazing person, an amazing personality. If you are based in Canada, you have seen him on TSN. You have seen him on The Score. Some people who are not into sports may have seen him on the Marilyn Dennis Show. If you are based in the States, you have seen his work with the Bleacher Report. He has two shows, Squad Ride and Group Chat, and I think he knows a thing or two about betting. Your real name is Cabral, but you all know him as Cabbie Richards. Welcome to the WaterBoys podcast, my man. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Great intro. I really appreciate that, Julian. Thank you, man.
Oh, man. I don't know if you remember at all, but like 6 years ago, I met you in Ottawa, and then you ended up on my college radio show. And then I did a podcast. I still have that other podcast I have with my friend Tristan DeBoer, the Scrum podcast. And now we have this podcast that I'm doing with Watch Mojo. So this is the third time I've interviewed you on some platform of mine. What's funny is that like Frank and I will talk about different guests that we want on the show. And sometimes Frank will just go in and then we'll just like reach out to different people. Frank reached out to Cabbie straight up, straight out to you, straight up. We're just like, yo, I want Cabbie on the show. And it just kind of worked out that way. So this is just really funny. That we have one of my favorite people in sports media on the show, and it wasn't even something I was necessarily hollering for. It was Frank who did all the legwork. Frank does a lot of the brain work.
Let's blame Frank for a lot of things, not just like getting me on the podcast. Let's blame Frank for losing a few bets. Let's blame Frank for convincing us to bet on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Let's blame Frank for us taking the underdog Miami Heat in the. You know, let's also blame Frank for Mark Bergevin too. Like just Mark Bergevin, period. You know what I mean? Because he's got to go. You know,
we're talking about Frank Saravelli, right? That's who we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about him and his twin brother Frank. Now, is it Pavan or Pavan? How do you pronounce your last name? Pavan. So not even the two ways that I say. Okay, Pavan. Yeah. Okay, no, we're blaming Frank Pavan.
Exactly.
That's what we're blaming.
Exactly.
That's good. Can you talk about you're in Vegas now, you're working with BR, you seem to be living the life out there. Like just can you talk about how life has been for you these last few I can't remember exactly how long it's been since you moved from Canada to Vegas, but just kind of take us through what it's been like over the last few years for you.
I moved in September of 19 and Vegas was kind of intimidating at first because we're our production office, our stage, everything was done out of the Caesars Palace Hotel. So I would go to the Caesars Palace like every day. And when I used to fly in, because at first it took me a little bit of time to get settled, to find a place. You know, when you move to another country, you have to like get credit and get a social security number. And like all that stuff takes time. So it was weirdly like going to a movie theater. So it was kind of intimidating because like I'm the only Canadian on the crew and I'm doing this new job. And, we had to put together this football show very quickly and we did it on Sundays. And I was working with a betting expert. Her name is Kelly Stewart, who was like so dialed into the betting culture. And I'm a newbie. I would bet every once in a while on Proline. Or, I would bet on March Madness, I'd be in the office pool filling out a bracket or, I'd bet on like I'd have my friend Ari would be the guy. I'd send him like $100. Say, hey man, bet on John Jones for me or George St. Pierre or bet on Holly Holm to upset Ronda Rousey. It was mostly like UFC events, but then going there and like fully immersing into betting culture. And I went there to start to host a football show. So every Sunday, actually even Saturdays too, there's like so much college football. And I was like, man, I watch it as a fan, but I don't like watch it as a bettor. So that was part of the intimidating, part of the intimidation at the beginning. But, once you get away from the Strip, Vegas is kind of like a regular American city. You have access to like world-class restaurants and world-class entertainment if you want. But if you don't, you just go live, 15, 20 minutes away from the Strip and just live a normal life. There's your regular strip malls. It's actually kind of beautiful. I know it's in a desert, but there are these great, beautiful mountains. You can do stuff outside. And then, you can go to like smaller casinos where you will also see old people sitting at slot machines, cigarette hanging out of their mouth for hours. You could go see a movie You know, I could go see Gemini Man, for example, and then like walk, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then walk out and still see the same people, at the slot machine, pressing the buttons and hoping to win the jackpot. So it's kind of cool. Like it's a nice town. I enjoy it.
It's a really interesting, I don't want to say dystopia you're painting. It just makes me think of like, are you in like Westview, New Jersey, like in WandaVision, where everyone's just kind of, living in this weird, in the hex, right?
It's not quite the hex. And I need to find, damn, what does she turn into in episode 9? Anyway, it's not quite that. And then the book comes out. I can't,
yeah.
I'm not that big of a fan of WandaVision, but it's an interesting leap creatively to do with the MCU. It's still got a bit of a vibe, but it's also like you don't need to, if you don't have to go to the Strip. I think most people that live there don't go because it's like everything's more expensive. So many more people, it's so transient because people just go there for a great time and they have a great time pre-pandemic. So it becomes a little overwhelming after a while if you go and indulge in the lifestyle and the partying, and obviously your own personal bankroll can't sustain that lifestyle because it's expensive even to go to a restaurant like on the Strip. So you just find your little mom and pop joints away from all that excitement, and you can find some great food and much lower in cost.
What I know obviously I wanted to talk to you about transitioning from TSN over to Bleacher Report. Like what's your day-to-day like? I know you said obviously you report to the Strip for work, but what I'm curious to know is, did Bleacher Report offer you anything that's new? I know you enjoyed, getting your hands-on experience hosting, producing, and even editing when at the Score and TSN. So, is there something a bit more unique that's offered or that you're able to do over at Bleacher Report?
There is. So I'm primarily a host over here, and we host these streams that are just on digital platforms, just on the Bleacher Report app. They're on Twitter and YouTube, and all the content is a vast departure from my content at TSN. I was primarily an interviewer, and I would, host events every once in a while. Sometimes I got to be a part of like the Raptors playoff coverage where I would be hosting with Jamal Murray or Nick Stauskas or both. And that was a great experience. Now this is just all betting focused, and where Bleacher Report betting is like betting adjacent. Bleacher Report is not a sports book, but it creates betting content. So, and also like, I'm not in the field as much. Like we're at the casino until the pandemic hit, and then since the pandemic, we've all been working remotely. We've all been working from home. So we have these mobile units in our homes, or when I fly back to Canada, I'll just have my work from home studio, like webcam, my mic, and my laptop. So it's different in that regard, and the way that we engage the audience is much different than TSN. TSN is very much like one way of communication. It's broadcaster to audience.
Yeah.
But on our betting platform, or Bleacher Report betting, we do, broadcaster to audience. We reverberate audience back, or we amplify audience back to us. And then we amplify audience speaking to each other. So that's like 3 ways of communication. And that's the engagement from the audience back to us, and the audience amongst each other is really what we lean into, just to create and foster more of a community. TSN is like, we show games and we have shows around these games and people watch them. But for Bleacher, which since, we don't have actual live events, we're like, all right, let's focus on the community. Let's focus on how we can create original IP, original ideas. And that's been a different creative challenge for me, because I really have to put my mindset in how can we make the audience feel like they're more a part of this thing. And we also mine the audience for content. We post a lot of these parlay tickets. So for people who don't understand the betting vernacular, it's like when you'll maybe bet on 10 games to win. for like a $2 ticket for a $2,000 payoff. And that's part of the fantasy of the sports gambler, either the novice gambler or the experienced gambler is hitting the big payday. We're in this sort of get rich quick era. Actually, maybe we've always been in it, but it feels like it's more amplified, either with blockchain technology, either with retail traders in the stock market, with sports betting as it's becoming more legal in I think it's up to 22 states now. Also with like 2 years before the legalization of marijuana. So you see these like licensed producers pop up all over the place. So it's a fun time. It's an interesting time, and there's a lot of opportunity for growth. No pun intended. So that's really the primary difference between the content I was creating at TSN versus what we're doing at Bleacher Report Betting.
Gotcha. I want to follow up on that, and not just in terms of the content, but we know it. Excuse me, sorry, just I don't know where that came from. Excuse me about that. Cool. Sorry. We know in Canada, the focus is, there's a lot of focus on hockey through what TSN provides and what Sportsnet provides. And while there are other sports that have kind of grown in popularity like soccer and basketball, that focus is still there with hockey. But now living in the States, I can only base off of the 1 year I was there, and I'm sure you have your own experiences. Like hockey is well down the chain versus like a football or a basketball or other sports. And I'm just curious, have you noticed your viewing habits kind of change in terms of the sports you've watched from when you transitioned to, working in Canada full time to working in America full time?
Very astute. And you probably experienced this when you were at Syracuse. 1000% my viewing habits have changed. At Bleacher, the priority sports are NFL football, college football, NBA basketball, college basketball, everything else. And in the everything else, like if like Serena's in a final, Serena gets bumped up. If Tiger is in a like in any of the majors, he gets bumped up to but like baseball, hockey, UFC from time to time will bump up. Like if they're huge. So if Conor McGregor is fighting, because Conor McGregor he's brilliant at selling a fight. He takes his cues from Floyd Mayweather. But yeah, so like I rarely follow hockey. Before at TSN, obviously hockey is the NFL of Canada. So I have to go look for it because it's not just on. So sometimes I'll go to a sports book if I want to watch some hockey because there are like 80 screens and basically every event is on, and you can find this Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, or sometimes I'll stream the games. But and certainly now my viewing habits have changed because if I'm watching a game, I've put money on the game. It could be as low as $10 or $20 or whatever. Or maybe I'm betting on a player prop, so-and-so to James Van Riemsdyk to score a goal or Giroud to get an assist or something. But certainly football and basketball, absolutely. There's money on the game. And that's, in my previous life, my entertainment, I would go out. I would go to restaurants. I'd go see we would go party and stuff. Now it's like so that bit of disposable income is now over here in this column for sports gambling. And I'm taking way more L's in sports gambling than I did at eating restaurants in Toronto.
Don't take L's, Cabbie. Don't do it.
No, listen, that's part of the life. In order to sustain yourself in sports betting, you have to win at a 56% clip. And that's to account for the juice that you're paying every time you make a bet. So I think Wednesday, I don't know when you guys post this, but Wednesday there's a basketball game. It's the Suns and the Dallas Mavericks. If you're betting on the Mavericks to win the game, the juice is 10. So it's like 110. You have to spend $11 to win $10. That extra dollar is a part of the juice that is accounted for what you have to your winning percentage. So 56% of your bets that's like, it doesn't sound like much, but when you actually start betting, you're like, man, you got to win at minimum 50% every time. If you're doing 3 bets a day, you got to win 2. 4 bets, you got to win 2, and parlays as seductive as they are, because you're looking at the payout, $2,000, $5,000 if this 12 leg, they never hit. And the casinos, that's how they build those towers in Las Vegas. It's people betting on these parlays, or people spending hours at the slot machines or at the table games chasing the big jackpot. And the house always wins. Like that popular moniker is real. The house always wins.
So I'm writing in my phone now what I should be betting on for Wednesday. Should I pick the Suns or should I pick the Mavericks? Which one should I be taking here?
So the Spurs, the Spurs are, I think they're 18-14.
Spurs? My
Spurs
bad.
Mavs. Spurs Mavs.
My bad.
Listen, whatever I say, you bet the opposite. It's called fading someone. So you should always fade, because my winning percentage is like my batting average in university. It's like under 100. It's probably I'm probably like batting.
You're
like,
not even at the Mendoza line.
No, not even, bro.
Oh, bro.
Did you play baseball for the Rams, Ryerson Rams?
I don't think he's talking about baseball. I mean, that's just me, but Anyway, I'm not trying to get my man in trouble.
Big facts. So what would I boy. I don't know. I probably bet on the Spurs because they're all right. Maybe Luka's tired from a weekend in Atlanta and he's the main guy for Dallas, and everybody on the Spurs got to go sit on a beach, be with their ladies, relax, and then they'll come back fully recharged.
Shifting gears a little bit, Cabbie, when I was doing research for the show, I mean, you don't have to do too much research to understand that you always come off as super, jovial, down to earth, an easy conversation to be had with you. Was that just one of those natural gifts, like for you? Did you ever have to consciously put that on, or was it really just one of those things that you had in the bag?
Well, thanks I appreciate that, man. Thanks. Is this our first date? Is this how we're, because I do need to up my batting average.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, then I'll help you up that average. Let's go.
I was always loud and obnoxious, but then when it came to like interviewing, I always hated, like, I just never wanted to be cliche. And then when you work in sports media, you're getting 6 or 7 go-to cliches from the athletes. And then you're getting like 6 or 7 go-to cliche questions from reporters. And I understand a beat reporter's job is very difficult because you're covering a team for 82 games in baseball and hockey, 162 in baseball. And then football is probably a little bit easier. There are more people you can focus on, blah, blah, blah. But also the coaches never give you anything because they're intentionally boring. And nobody wants to create a controversy with any clip, any soundbite. And we've been in the soundbite culture for 20, 30 years. So I was always aware of like how boring like athletes looked when they were responding to things. And then I always wanted to pick up on, and I wonder who I got this from. My thinking was always out of the box. So I wouldn't ask things that hopefully the athlete would be bored by. Like if I asked Justin Turner when we played for the Dodgers, what's your favorite taco spot or what's the best taco truck in LA? He might start to smile because everybody's got one of those spots, like either their go-to spot, their go-to sushi place, Thai place, taco place. And it's like a point of pride to share it with you. Or if you say to someone, yo, where'd you get those kicks? Complimenting another dude's kicks is like telling him he's handsome. And so those were the things, those are the individual thing, the personality things that I wanted to amplify with athletes. So, and if I was, speaking with them a little bit longer, I would try to find pick up on, that's an interesting thing. So this is your favorite, or sometimes I would re-ask to confirm, okay, so this is your favorite Mexican taco truck, but this is your favorite Korean taco truck. So, and then yeah, this one. And then it might continue to and if you want, the best burger spot in LA, you got to go to, Father's Office or Plant Check. In-N-Out Burger is legit, but you got to go to one of these. And so it just makes conversation more interesting. So okay. I also have to give a lot of props to Dan Lebitard and Tavis Smiley. They are expert interviewers. Tavis, I don't think has been on the air for a few years. He had a falling out with PBS, but they are excellent interviewers. They're just being able to pick up on things. I use some of their interviewing tricks. Le Batard he calls himself a grief eater. He likes to go back into the painful time. He wants to chart the process from the person's lowest moment to a place of excellence where they currently are. I don't do that as much, but I borrowed some of his interview tactics. Tavis Smiley always says like, he uses like, how do you navigate through X, Y, or Z? So the word navigating is a word that I've used many times in my interviews because I used to listen to Tavis Smiley on his podcast, and he'd have a daily show on PBS. So I have to give props to those two. Just in my later development as an interviewer, I've picked up on things. A lot of people credit Howard Stern. They believe he's a great interviewer. I don't listen to Howard Stern. So I give my props to Dan Le Batard and Tavis.
You ever listen to Sean Evans on Hot Ones?
Sean Evans is excellent. He is also excellent. Great. I mean, I'm so professionally jealous of James Corden's idea, karaoke in cars, and Sean Evans like let's eat wings with 10 different hot sauces, and I'll do it. And the research is great. And then I suppose maybe subconsciously I was not informed, but influenced by Nardwuar.
I was waiting for Nardwuar.
I guess, our styles are, I suppose we're similar in that we are, I'm using another cliche, we're outside of the box. We're non-traditional interviewers, and he relies heavily on props. I used to use props in my interviews because I like the athlete and I doing something. And I think it's a clever device to get them to react and to have fun. And Nardwuar would just like, here's a record from your childhood. Here's another record. Here's a toy. So there wasn't really like an interview. It would like, here's a prompt. Tell me about this prompt. And that then is the interview versus like asking a question or doing something. But anyway, Nardwuar is like, he's brilliant. And I don't know who he has on his research staff, but the research is phenomenal.
We know about your list of people you've interviewed, whether it's to the NBA or whether it's to the NHL. And we're not just talking your third or fourth line guys or NFL. Like Aaron Rodgers, you and Aaron Rodgers, of course, are boys. God bless him, but Kobe Bryant, when he was around, we know about your history with Kobe. I'm just curious, is there a dream interview guest that you've always wanted to have, but you've never gotten the chance
so many of those
to talk to them? I bet.
So many of those. We like when I was at TSN, even the Score, every year we would try to get Tom Brady, and we would just get Tom politely declines. Like every year. Tom Brady's been playing for 20 years. You know what I mean? And like, he started in 2001. So in 2002 was the first, like one of our first we did 2 road trips. In the original Cabbie on the Street series. We went to Montreal. We went to an Expos and Florida Marlins game. I interviewed Ryan Dempster for the Marlins. I interviewed Brad Penny. No, was it Brad Penny? Pitcher for the Marlins. Was it Brad
Not
Penny?
Josh Beckett?
Beckett wasn't there yet. Or was he? If he was there, I didn't interview. I interviewed Preston Wilson, and I interviewed the late, great Frank Robinson. I put my arm around him. I was wearing a Superman t-shirt, and he's like, easy there, Superman. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, Frank. Like, he's such an old school dude. I was playing catch with Brad Penny. I'm like, I didn't know anybody. Like, you couldn't play catch with the players as they're warming up for a Major League Baseball game. But here I was 22 or 23, just a complete donkey. And I was like, man, I'm just going to do it. Cause there are like 49 people in the Big O watching the game, 49 people, nobody's here. So I'm like, let me just take advantage of this moment. So Brady is one. And Brady, like, not obviously, but one of the two, either Ronaldo or Lionel Messi. But they like Ronaldo, I think the furthest he'll go is like he did a complex sneakers. There's that sneaker shopping on Complex. Yeah. He did an interview on that. But Messi doesn't like the media. He did one interview with Jeremy Schaap before either the 14 or the 18 World Cup. And I remember hearing Jeremy Schaap from ESPN talk about this after. He was like, I had 30 minutes or 35 minutes, but like I couldn't get anything out of him. And I was like, man, that's ESPN. That's like the broadcast partner for FIFA. So like you'd have to be on that level to get an interview with Messi. And I certainly never was. It was a point of pride to get to Usain Bolt because we chased that
Yes.
interview for 9 years and we finally got it through Puma. Okay, so one of the two iconic soccer players, I'd love to interview Serena and Brady's. I would love to interview President Obama and like do something with President Obama that that hasn't been seen. So like I would love to go to like a fun mini golf course, or I'd love to be like on a set, like in a kitchen making like imagine just eating Captain Crunch with the president of the United States. Like it's not enjoyable to watch someone eat because it's kind of, so maybe we're making like grilled cheese or like we're making our favorite pizza. Like you would never, like you haven't even seen President Obama eat ever, you know?
Oh, with
So
Anthony
that would be
Bourdain.
cool.
I was about to say that's the one.
Oh,
time.
did he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My bad.
All good.
I mean, they didn't eat cereal. To their credit,
Nope.
they didn't eat cereal.
Is an icon. That's cool. That's very. Now I need to watch that on YouTube. That's very cool. So I have to come up with something else, like go karts, or maybe those what are they called? With those like clear, or like archery. Archery where I would put like different faces of leaders on like targets.
Oh,
So,
he's not
like,
doing that.
no,
Cabbie's not doing that.
No,
He's not doing that at all. Oh my God.
It would be fun to like pitch the idea, and if he was into it, then be like amazing. I would maybe do it more innocuous, be like, he's a Chicago guy, so maybe it's like the Vikings and the Packers, like the divisional rivals of the Chicago Bears or the Chicago Bulls, or
The Cubs.
He lives on the South Side, so so I don't know if he was a Cubs fan or a White Sox fan.
I think he was a White Sox fan.
Yeah, so maybe that's the way that I would do it versus like putting Putin and the Agent Orange's face on a target.
Ooh, so you get spicy up in here.
Whoever else that he disliked.
Cabbie, I want to make sure that this is correct, but is your favorite artist still Jay-Z? Has anyone else crept up, or is it still the man?
Yeah, the top 5 includes Kendrick, Drake. Oh man, you know what? I have to. This is like a bit of a mind bleep, but I have to separate the artist from the man.
Oh
So
boy.
if I do that, then I put Kanye in the top. Even though Kanye has said some reprehensible things, just like him as an artist is like there's a big part of his catalog which was like hugely not informative, but
Evocative?
no, it is evocative, certainly, but like there was so much entertainment that I had from from like 04 to the Life of Pablo. Like in that Life of Pablo, I think it was 16. So in that 12 years, like there's so many times I danced to his music, or I listened to his music in the gym, or in the car, or on a walk, or like at a pre-party or an after party. Like, so anyway, yeah. So Hov is still number one. And I'm always, and I've said this a few times, but I'm one of the few people that subscribe to Tidal just for the exclusive Beyonce drop or the Jay-Z drop that comes out of nowhere. And then I get to be the first one to listen to it for 24 hours. And I do. And it's like there's a bit of cachet to get something like that first. And then, and that's how much and like I drink. I just recently gifted a friend of mine a bottle of Ace of Spades, Armand de Brigiac champagne, because he's a great dude.
That's his thing.
But so Jay-Z sold 50% of that champagne company to Moet and Hennessy. Like he just does these boss moves. Like Jay-Z is the blueprint for many of us in the culture because, he's so aspirational as a businessman and as a talent. Like his excellence in both business and artistic merit is like a 42 out of 10. So, and he's got, as he says, I got the hottest chick in the game wearing my chain. I'm like, this guy can't lose. Jay-Z takes very few L's, and like that guy's batting average is like 999. It's Mike Trout, Mookie Betts. Let's throw in Barry Bonds. Let's throw in Ichiro.
Yeah.
All those people combined, and that's what that's what Jay-Z is as a man.
I gotta ask
publicly. I don't.
yes.
Again, my disclaimer is I don't know what he's like as a human. Like I don't know if he treats how he treats people, but publicly he's all world.
I figured that was implied. Really quickly, because we know the Zoom kind of peeling back here with the Zoom call. But I got a few things. I don't know what your time is like, but I really have to. I've thought of the one question.
I'll be quicker.
It's not even. Don't even worry about that. This one I actually want you to kind of think about a bit. I've been thinking ever since we booked this interview with you. There's been one kind of question on my mind, and I've been dying to ask you this question. We are coming off a month in Canada where two of the most prominent sports media duos in Jay and Dan and Tim and Sid have been split up. And considering you worked at TSN, you've obviously had brushes with Jay and Dan, considering the fact that you worked with Tim and Sid at The Score. You've had brushes with those two. Any thoughts on those two, those two duos kind of breaking up? Well, for different reasons, of course. But just your thoughts on those two duos and what was it like working with either of them?
Well, Jay and Dan's fans really, really like them, and they developed a community of people that like they loved how odd and strange and unique they were as personalities, and they kind of reflected a huge portion of Canadiana. Because they were, they had certain terms and phrases that they used, and I know that their fans really miss them. I didn't really have that many interactions with them at TSN because they worked primarily at night and in a different part of TSN. If you think about like a campus, they were like on the east side of the campus, and usually when I was working at night, I was in an edit suite with an editor cranking out the next Cabbie Presents episode. And then I grew up with Tim and Sid. So my emotional ties are much stronger with Tim and Sid. And they are, and I don't know if they get enough credit for it, but the lighthearted take on sports, they really fostered that new generation or that generation of broadcasters in Canada. In the United States, Chris Berman would have his catchphrases when he would do football highlights, and the late great, oh my goodness, I'm having a brain freeze.
Give us some hints.
Late great Stu Scott, excuse me.
Yes,
he would also have a lot of catchphrases. But Tim and Sid, they were our Berman and Stu Scott because we were like 25 and mixing in pop culture and hip hop, and Tim had a book of literally a book of nicknames for hockey players that he would infuse into his highlights and stuff. And Sid would just have them committed to memory because Sid is he's just so smart in that way and very sharp and very quick. So, Tim and Sid, they're legends, man. And I'm excited for what Tim creates for himself next because Tim is very much a forward thinker and he's a really creative person, even though it may not seem like it on camera because he has to play the straight guy and Sid gets to play the wild card. I guess similarly, Dan played the straight guy and Jay was the wild card, or sometimes they switch roles. And then Sid, I don't get up early enough to watch breakfast television, nor will I, but I look forward to watching various clips that get posted to social media to see how Sid is doing, talking about school closures or the weather, or, having some chef from an Indian restaurant in studio they're going to make because they're celebrating various cultures, and then having Sid try lamb or goat. Cause I think Sid just eats burgers, chicken fingers, fish strips, and pasta. That's it. He is not a very adventurous person in his cuisine and also just in life.
Yeah. Do you happen to have any artist suggestions for Frank? Because in our notes it says, gotta give Frank some artist suggestions because his music library sucks.
Okay, so Kavale is a dude from Toronto. Very, very strong artist. Big Tona, another Canadian dude. Savannah Ray, excellent. Who else? Who am I listening to right now that I love? I love Guap Dad 4000 and Jack Harlow. You probably heard of Jack Harlow?
Yeah.
but Guap Dad is from the too. Oh yeah, Guap Dad's from the Bay. He's just so unique, and like he's in his own lane of I don't know how to describe it. I need to find a better way to describe why I love this young artist so much. But yeah, Guap Dad 4000. I'm coming around on Lil Baby. I don't know if you guys saw I'm coming around. His appearance on Wants and Needs on Drake's EP on Scary Hours too. His verse is fire. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll go back and re-listen to some Lil Baby, because at first I was just like, I kind of like the Baby a little bit more than Lil Baby.
Yeah. See, those guys confuse the shit out of me. Like, I have no clue what's happening there. I don't know what's happening there. It's off the charts.
Kirk is the Baby, who has more like pop sounding radio friendly hits, and then Lil Baby, completely different dude. His rhyming pattern is a little bit, I don't want to say complex, but it's a little bit trickier to understand his flow and like his lyrics. So you might have to go on Genius to like, oh, that's what he said in this record. Cause Da Baby is easier to understand audibly than Lil Baby.
Okay. So when I'm going back and post and I'm going to look up all the artists you gave me and then try to identify exactly the difference. But like what's crazy is that like I have a really music oriented family. Like my grandfather ran an orchestra. Very well versed in piano and accordion. Oh, wow. He played for the Queen of England. He played for the Montreal Canadiens. What? Like super. Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
But it just never resonated with me. Like I know the artist. I'm not completely out of touch with who's in the mainstream and who's not, but it's just like sports, cars, and kind of video games were my genres of love. Like, it's
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So be it. But I will give those artists a listen. I think Julian wants to hit you up with our little game here. So let's go for it.
All right. So we did this with Ariel Helwani last week. We get to do it with you. Our sports word association. We have some different terms listed out here. We throw them out to you. You tell us the first thing that comes to mind. It doesn't even necessarily, like with Ariel last week, it didn't necessarily have to be in a UFC mixed martial arts context. He gave us a whole bunch of Montreal references. So, Cabbie, literally the first thing that comes to your mind when I say favorite interview. Take your time.
Well, it's the first thing that comes to mind. Okay, so the first person I thought of was Aaron Rodgers, but Kobe in the limo was.
Oh, that was.
Yeah, one of those two. Just Aaron Rodgers in general, or Kobe in the limo. I mean, yeah, those are a lot of fun.
Okay, how about hardest interview?
Hardest, thank you. Hardest was first one that comes to mind is David Beckham, because just before we started, in my brain, I thought we had 10 minutes because TSN was a broadcast partner of the MLS, and it was a day that MLS Miami was announcing its team, and Beckham was doing media. And there's another person who we waited for 3 hours, but it's David Beckham.
Wow.
And literally just before I do my interview, the man to my left is blah, 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 or however. That's generally how I would start it. The PR guy says, 5 minutes, okay, Cabbie? 5 minutes? And I was like, sure, man. But I had 10 minutes planned. So as I'm starting, I'm editing out questions, trying to be an active listener, but then figuring out where to go next within the 5 minutes, and try not to be nervous in the moment. And I think Wayne Gretzky once said this, like in an interview to me, he's like, I'm like a duck. I look calm on top, but below the water, I'm paddling like hell. And in that moment, I was paddling like hell, trying to navigate through this 5 minute window when I thought I had 10. So that's the first one that comes to mind.
Damn. How about the interview you were most nervous for?
Most nervous for? Most nervous, probably the both times I interviewed Michael Jordan, because it wasn't scheduled, and no one knew that I was coming there to interview Michael Jordan, and we weren't allowed to. So it was a little bit of like breaking the rules, because we were told explicitly that Michael Jordan would not be doing interviews both times. Once in 2009 at a golf course just outside of Toronto, and 2012 or 13 at a golf course in Las Vegas. So waiting for Michael is like, It's nerve-wracking. And then the moment where you see him, and then you're like, okay, what moment do I approach him? And then I know that my window is going to be about 60 seconds. So those were the most nerve-wracking for sure. Those two.
Damn, man.
And the interactions were only like a minute. So it wasn't really that long, but I was just like, I'm going to get kicked out. All these things are going through your head. Like his security, the security guard is right there, but you have to go big, friendly, stupid face that I have, that I think maybe helped to disarm him. So that it worked in both of those instances.
But before I bring up the next term I have for our game here, is Jordan the most famous person, or I guess most illustrious person you've interviewed?
He's the most famous. He's the most famous. The
That's what I
closest
figured.
would be Mike Tyson or David Beckham.
Yeah.
But
true.
Jordan's the most famous.
Yeah.
Your worst streeter encounter?
Worst streeter encounter? I'm sure. Worst streeter encounter? That's a great one. Let me think. Whenever you do streeters, there are always people that are going to jump in because they just want to cause some chaos. So, or they just want to be on camera. So, anytime I was at at a bar or restaurant, like covering like a game, like you're going to get people who are cursing, people who are drunk. I can't think of the worst streeter. I haven't done streeters in a while. That's a really
drunk people. Drunk people
are the worst.
Okay.
Basically, you can use drunk people are the worst for anything. You can use that answer basically for anything. Driving in cars, to saying things to female reporters, to saying things to goofy male reporters. Drunk people are the worst.
Next one here for you. Your favorite pair of shoes?
Favorite pair of kicks. Thank you for asking. I am a Air Max 1s guy. They're just like a classic low-key sneaker. You can, they're probably 800 different colorway combinations. I like to go to Nike ID just to use my own. And they're not a famous sneaker. My favorite J's are the 4s, but 3s are really good too. 4s, I think. But Air Max 1s are my, and I've recently become a fan of the Adidas, the Ultra Boosts. Mm-hmm. Super comfortable. I probably have like four or five pairs of those, but Air Max 1's my favorite. It used to be Air Max 95 when I was like in high school and university. I'd have like one pair for literally 3 years. I'd clean them. You're a broke student. You don't have like the disposable income to go increase your sneaker collection. So, because you barely have enough money to take a girl to the movies, in like 01 or 02. So, you got your sneakers are like treasured possessions because they're like your status symbol, as I walked around like Young Street or Queen Street or whatever. Same kicks for 3 years until I got another pair of Air Max 95s at different colorways. And back then, the colorways weren't released as often as they are now. You would just have like the standard, that gray gradient with like the highlighter green or neon green, like accents on the eyelets. And then it had like the navy blue grading, like the Air Max 95, darker colors and goes up as it moves up the shoebox. Anyway. Yeah, Air Max 1s. I'm sorry. I'm terrible at this game because like my answers are like 4 minutes
that's
long.
Fine.
Versus
no,
like
that's fine. That's totally fine. I was going to ask as a follow-up, did your batting average go up when you started adding more Air Maxes?
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
Oh,
I was in the minor leagues for a long time. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like the Blue Jay equivalent, but I don't want to throw shade at anybody.
Yeah.
Like those guys are actually professional athletes and I'm just a professional donkey. So it did not help the batting average at all.
Cabbie, you are not a professional donkey. The last one we have for you. What do you miss most about Toronto?
What do I miss most about Toronto? I think going to Raptor games. That was so much fun for me. Even though it was work, that environment feels like a second home. And Dave and I, my producer, Dave Cricks, we've said that many times. Like when we walk in there, like, oh, this feels like home. It's various places in the bowels, various places in the arena, and then just getting to watch the Raptors win or lose games was always so much fun. And then like the staff, a lot of people that you would never see unless like you're an avid open gym watcher, and they'll feature some of the people behind the scenes. Some of those people we have like actual friendships with, and I miss those cats as much as I miss the players, interacting with the players.
Cabbie Richards, you ran through our Sports Word Association game. You did very well for yourself. It doesn't matter if you had to add extra context for some of these answers. You did very, very well. And we really appreciate the fact that you were willing to spend time with us on the WaterBoys podcast just to, shoot the shit and just talk about what you've been up to. It's really exciting to see that you started off with your thing with the score and then TSN and just as an interviewer, and now you've expanded into so many other things with Bleacher Report. I just have to add this though, from the first time that we met, which was at a student journalism conference in Ottawa called NASH. This is just me just bringing up an anecdote here. We'll never forget Cabbie doing a talk in front of students, and as soon as the talk is over, Cabbie says, "Okay, I'm going to go to the lobby and hang out." And, normally for people who do talks like that, they, a small handful of people will, meet up with them after the fact. I'm telling you, the entire room, which probably had 50, 60 people, a lot of people, they all followed this man. Dude was like Moses.
I don't know if that's accurate.
You were like Moses, bro. You were just walking through the hotel and everyone was following Cabbie. That's how popular he was at that conference. And that's how much
people were leaving the session to go onto the next thing. We just ended up
a lot of them, dude, a lot of them followed you. Maybe not the entire room, but a lot of them followed you. I remember being in front of that crowd and doing like a Snapchat when everybody was doing the thing on Snapchat and be like, oh my God, look, and there were plenty of people, bro. Trust me, you are very popular, especially with people of Frank and I's generation. And to see you kind of get to a point at Bleacher Report where you're doing some really cool things, and sometimes we see you hang out with the NBA panel as well. You're doing a lot of cool shit, and to see you do well, there's a sense of pride from us Canadians. So big up to you, my man.
Appreciate that. Thank you thanks for having me on. This is a lot of fun. I really had a lot of fun with this podcast. So WaterBoys, I dig the name, and I look forward to the next time we could chop it up, and I'll have some other stories to tell. Hopefully some newer stories.
Cabbie Richards from Bleacher Report. Thank you so much, dude.
My pleasure.